how things are looking in the table right now. Chelsea cutting the gap on Premier League leaders Liverpool to 4 points. Obviously, Liverpool didn't get to play their game this weekend. But as for Tottenham Hotspur, that is more dropped points for them. A loss today, one that they didn't need right now, and the focus has very much been on them and their unpredictability this season. We've got Julien Laurens and Nedum Onuoha joining us. We've got a lot to talk about. Nedum, I'm going to start with you. Where do you want to start? What's your biggest takeaway from this?
Well, to start with, the fact you've put the top 10 up there from the Premier League and I can't see Spurs anywhere, that feels crazy to me. But then I think for this game itself, this young Chelsea side going 2 goals down away from home and having a reaction to come back and to play the way that they did, to have that level of composure and to be scoring the amount of goals that they're scoring as well. I think as we look at them, Maresca says himself, they're not involved in a title race. They're not involved in a title race. But when you listen to the players after the game, I think they genuinely believe that they are. I think they looked at the fact that Liverpool's game was postponed. You look at Man City dropping points, Arsenal dropping points. It was a big opportunity for them. And now here they are, 4 points behind Liverpool. So many people doubting them, especially when, when we went 2-0, 2 goals down to Spurs. But the quality that they have, especially in attack, and the way that, they have belief in the side. You listen to the players talk after the game and they're saying, even when we were 2-0 down, we had a belief that we could score. That sort of belief there is very different to what we heard last year. When they were heavily criticised for the League Cup, for example, heavily criticised for the games which maybe they should have won. This FA Cup semi-final against Man City, for example. But now it feels different. It feels like they've learned from those experiences. Feel like they have a manager who's bringing out some of the best football in some of their players. And as a consequence, whether they win the league or not, I'm not sure. But they've got the ability to go and win anywhere against any team in this division, because we've seen them play a lot of the big teams so far and they've done very, very well. And right now, the belief certainly is there, so why not?
Yeah, and I don't know if we'd been saying this at the beginning of the season, Jules. In fact, I was reminded of your pre-season picks for this one. You didn't even have Chelsea in your top 6. You've got to be believing in them now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can say they're not in the title race. They're too inexperienced. They're still too young. It's too early. I mean, Maresca himself says that. And I agree with Nedum. I think they are very much in it. And I don't know how long it will last. And we can look again in January and in March and in April, etc., etc. But for now, they have been really the best team behind Liverpool. And that's why they're 4 points behind. And they've played all the big boys, Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Spurs. And that's where they are now. And yes, they are young. They are the youngest team in the league by far. They lack maybe a bit of experience at times in the way they manage some games. But if you play to their strength, like Spurs this today, they're going to eat you for breakfast. And that's exactly what happened today. And we knew before this was going to be a high-scoring game, of course, because of the style of the two teams. But even when they go 2-0 down, they still have the conviction and the determination. They know they're going to score. They know they can come back against anybody, because that's how good they are going forward.
Kasey, this was a crazy game. It's hard to make sense of it. We see Cucurella with his boots. We see those mistakes from the defenders leading to the 2 penalties for Chelsea. How do you try and make sense of this game?
Well, I think the thing that if I'm analysing it from a Chelsea standpoint, you pseudo-gift a couple goals, but you were the better team for a majority of the match away at Spurs. You didn't then put your head down. You didn't then start pointing fingers. You just got on with the task. Sancho scores the goal, which kind of then eases, I think, any kind of fear that, okay, is it going to be one of those days? And you have to have a lot of confidence to be able to do that. And you're only having that confidence because the way you've been playing over the last several weeks. And I think Chelsea have proven, to Julien and Nedum's point, yes, they deserve to be in that top 4. They deserve to be chasing a title. Now, I think we all agree, because nobody really expected this, that we're still going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see what happens over the next couple months, over the as we all know, the Christmas fixture congestion, and how does a young squad cope with that and that types of things. But yeah, they deserve all the plaudits. Nobody expected this, and they're proving people wrong.
Yes, they absolutely are. When it comes to Spurs, Nedum, obviously we've been saying this season, you don't know what you're going to get. Coming into this game, we thought the same. There's been obviously those dropped points in the recent games, coming after that big win for them that did come obviously a few games back against Manchester City. What to take away from today's offering?
I think that's a good question. I think in terms of the way that they were playing when they had the 2-0 lead and they were in the ascendancy, then great. But then it comes down to moments, lots of little moments. I think Postecoglou was saying there in his interview, that the guys are eager to impress, but unfortunately you can't be doing that with the tackles that you saw from their two midfielders today for them. Giving away those two penalties are really, really poor penalties to give away. At times, maybe it can be done by something special, but these guys are experienced enough to be able to handle the situation and allow Cole Palmer to leave the space, allow Caicedo to just take the ball and just defend properly. So I think some of those moments can really affect the team and affect the flow of a game. And another moment itself, like the Son chance when he's going through 1v1 and he kicks it wide. Those moments can have a big bearing, not just on the team, but on the crowd, on the whole mood in the place. And that gives Chelsea and teams like that even more belief when they see the Spurs are sort of stuttering their way through the game. So I think for them, this would have been a good test for them. They would have thought, well, we're probably just as good as Chelsea. We can handle this. We should be further up the table. But in the end, they failed that test against the Chelsea side, which not many people, myself included and Jules, wouldn't have thought that Spurs would be this far behind them at this stage of the season. But here we are, and the problems certainly are starting to mount.
Yeah, they should be further up the table, Jules. So why isn't it? Why can we pinpoint that they aren't further up the table right now than they are? What does Ange Postecoglou need to change, and will he be willing to do so?
I think if he had the solution, he would have displayed it by now. We know what the problem is. We know the lack of control that they have, and they just have one plan and plan A. And today we were on radio with Nedum today in the UK here, and that was before kickoff, way before the game started. And this is exactly what we said. This team has a plan A that is great when it works, i.e. the win at City, for example, or the win at home against West Ham. But then when it doesn't work, or when they don't have enough control on the game, which they really, really never have, let's be honest here, then they struggle and they're far too open all the time because they just keep attacking and just think about attacking all the time. And I think the two penalties that gave away today are really poor penalties to give away. I understand that. But I think when you don't have control, when you don't have a structure for your team to be able to control games and tempos of games in different situations, then you panic. And then that leads you to make stupid mistakes. I don't think Bissouma or Sarr are stupid players. They just sometimes make stupid decisions because I think there's a lack of structure in this team that has been going on since day one since Postecoglou arrived, really. We've never seen any improvement in terms of team structure and control of games, whether Spurs are leading, drawing, behind, anything like that. They just all attack and then nothing much else.
You need to be able to read those situations differently. And then when you provide someone like Cole Palmer the chance from the spot, as we've seen, he's clinical. So I think it's like, as Jules was saying, like, he's not a stupid player, but it's a stupid decision because it's not one that you had to do. I think when you go to the ground in the box, it has to be due to desperation because you've got no other options. But in this moment, you do. Even if you stand him up, it's Moises Caicedo squaring you up 1v1 in the box. And for as good as he is, he doesn't feel to me like the most dangerous player that could be in that position. So again, it's rash, it's disappointing, and it affects the flow of the game as well. So I think from his side, he'll look back at it and know that there's no reason at all he should be trying to make that tackle. He can be shimmying left, shimmying right. He can get his body in front of you. He can fake to shoot. He is the master of that moment. And in that instance, like, Sarr wants to go and win the ball. And it's great you want to try and do that. But who are you trying to do it against now? And it's the exact opposite of the fact that, against Caicedo, if he squares you up, you'll probably be fine. But Cole Palmer owns that situation. If you think you can get there ahead of him, you need to be 100% sure. And again, it's hugely disappointing because, again, it affects his team. From him trying to be keen and eager, he's put them in an even worse position. He's giving Cole Palmer the chance to do what he did. Just a little cheeky Panenka, like he's the easiest thing in the world. And it's a shame. But again, this is the way it is sometimes when you're defending. You need to be able to read the situation, read the players. And listen, I've given away probably too many penalties in my time as well. But you should learn from them. That's Cole Palmer. Are you going to get the ball? And what's going to cost to get the ball? And in that moment, you should always just let him go away from the goal because he's far less dangerous going that way than coming towards you.
From the Spurs perspective, and obviously you are flying the flag for Spurs here on the panel tonight, that must be so frustrating for you to see both of those moments and obviously the outcome of them.
Well, it's the outcome more than the moment. I understand, individual errors are going to happen and you're going to make a decision where you think, like you said, I'm so eager to help the team that I do something that I shouldn't have done. But the fact that Tottenham are at home, they've had this situation where they've been very irregular with their results. You're gifted a 2-0 lead, and then you're thinking, okay, grow from it. How can you then be the team that is expected to be challenging for Champions League. You find yourself not even in the top half of the table right now with this result, but you were 2-0 up at home. Yes, it's against a very good Chelsea side that is playing very well right now and surprising a lot of people. But if you're supposed to be in that conversation with those teams, a Man City side that's stuttering, a Chelsea that no one had any expectation that they're going to be here, but you're supposed to be in that conversation. And you're 2-0 up at home, and then you throw it all away. In the way it was thrown away, it's one thing if you always have those crazy results where things just go a certain way, but this felt more given than taken by Chelsea. Chelsea, yes, they were the better team, and I agree with Jules. Watching the game throughout, Chelsea were always in control, but we've all won lots of games where a team was in control. You're well organized defensively. You know how to suffer. You know how to fight. You know how to do little things to get a result. And yeah, I think that's the big question that I think Nedum and Jules have brought up. There's one way Tottenham can get a result. Can they find other ways, particularly against better teams?
Yeah, speaking about getting results, after Pochettino's exit, eyebrows were raised with the appointment, Jules, of Enzo Maresca, but it's looking to be a genius stroke right now.
I don't know if it's a genius coach. Nedum knows him better than all of us from his time at City. I just think he's a very good coach. That's enough for now. He's a coach with a structure. And again, how important that is. He's a coach with young players who have the energy and the intensity to play the football that he wants, which is not given to anybody. Look at what Man City and Guardiola are struggling to do now because of that lack of intensity. Chelsea have plenty of that with all those young players. And even when Romeo Lavia, for example, who for me was the best player in that first half, has to come off at half-time, there's still more of a plan behind. You can put Gusto at right back and Caicedo comes back a little bit more in midfield, and Enzo will have to play a little bit deeper, but you make it work because your structure is so good with the ball, without the ball, in attack, in defense, in transition, but also in possession. All of that, this is what you do. And I think the other best thing that Maresca has done, and that comes from Pochettino, and probably the only good thing that Pochettino, and I said that to Nedum today, that Pochettino did for Chelsea Football Club last season in what was a chaotic season, was to qualify them for the Conference League in Europe. Not a competition that you want to play, that your fans enjoy, that the club enjoy, because it doesn't bring you any money or any glory, really. But it enables you to play Team A in the league, Team B in Europe. So your players have one game a week, basically. Instead of players at Arsenal or City or Liverpool having to play every 3 days because in Champions League you need your A team anyway. For Chelsea, it's easy. You play the reserve team pretty much in Europe where they were still good enough to win that competition, and you keep your best 11 for the league games, and they're not tired. Everybody's happy within the camp because everybody plays a little bit. Okay, you would rather play in the Premier League than in the Conference League, but still, that's the idea. And I think Maresca created this incredible unity and team spirit in that team that you see on the pitch. 2-0 down, away from home, we don't panic. We know our strength. We know we can come back. And then you've got Cole Palmer, who's an absolute genius anyway.
Yes, absolutely he is. Let's continue that conversation, if we can, Nedum, on the fit that Maresca's been at Chelsea.
Yeah, for sure. I think something that I'm realising now, the more I think about it as well, is the job that was going to be required to come in at Chelsea is a manager which maybe some managers would hate because it is a group of really young players. I think on a week-to-week basis, you might see on occasions, like the oldest players on Chelsea's pitch might be Cucurella and like Robert Sanchez at 26 years of age. You know, this is a lot of players who are probably between the age of like 20 to 23. At this point, these players need development. So you need a coach that's going to be able to see them on the training ground, be able to give them the messaging that he needs for them to understand what their roles are, but understand that they do have flaws. And can you make them better? And as we see this Chelsea side, this young Chelsea side, some of them are playing the best football in their careers so far. So I think the job that Maresca's done has been very, very impressive. I think when you listen to the players speak, none of them have a relationship with him as such, but they're very clear in understanding what he wants from them. They're very clear in sort of working on the details. And I think that's something that's changed a lot across all the years, say when I've played, when Kasey played and so on. I think in the past we had managers who were supported by coaches and there were general things. But these days it's the specifics that I believe can bring out the best in players. Look at the way Nicholas Jackson's playing this year. Look at the style in which Neto plays. Look at the style in which Cucurella's playing. Look at Sancho playing some of the best football that we've seen in England as well. I think it's been hugely impressive. And come the start of the season when we had all these critiques about the size of the squad, which are still valid critiques, by the way, because there are people like Ben Chilwell who were still there at the football club, you know, the former club captain. But as Jules has mentioned, there's enough football right now for everybody to feel like they are still part of something, and the team is winning. The belief is there. And if I can just mention one last thing, a year ago, they were fighting over penalties. You were seeing 3-4 players coming up to each other saying, no, I want to take it. I need to take it. I need this. I need that. Felt like a bunch of individuals. Whereas now, as one player scores, everybody goes and celebrates together. How many people you've seen doing the Cole Palmer celebration behind Cole Palmer as he wheels off into the corner? You know, that's the definition of good vibes. And that comes from more than just winning games. You know, that's the whole culture that's being set by the new manager, Maresca.
And I think with that culture, what I like seeing from particularly a young team is take advantage of the youth and the energy that comes from being young and wanting to impress and having that ability, because they outworked Tottenham. And that's, you can't put a price on that. If you're able to work harder than your opponent away from home, 2-0 down, and then work your way back into a victory, take what you have available to you. If you have young and you have energy, then press that energy. And that made a big difference in I think, not only in today's match, but what we're seeing from Chelsea coming in and week out, that they have the ability to outwork your opponent.